Yay!
Yes.
So exciting. Podcast time.
I know, I love a little podcast action.
It's lovely to see you.
You too, you look gorgeous as
You
always.
too. Too.
Thank
The last
you.
time I saw you, I got to see you in person. We were
I
doing
know.
birthday celebrations together.
You celebrated your birthday, we had such a fun girls' weekend. Oh, that was fantastic, my soul needed that.
It was so amazing. And it was a really interesting curriculum for me, actually, because, traditionally, birthdays are not always a joyful time for me. And it's a little bit because I get caught up in letting other people plan things for me, or like my husband's a really good planner and he always has lots of ideas. But I remember one year, I let him, he's like, I just want to plan your birthday. I'm like, great. And I remember it felt really like you have an appointment here at this time, then you have to go here, and then you have to go here, then you have to, and I remember getting to the end of the day being like, "Oh, it was all things I loved, and I'm so tired. I'm so tired."
Uh-huh.
And I think there's that thing of, like, being excited that other people love you and wanna do something nice for you and wanna delight you, and you wanna see everybody, and it gets a little bit like a wedding where, the feeling of a wedding of, like, the whole day is supposed to be about you and your love, but it really ends up being about throwing a party for everyone who's in your life, and then you get to the end of the day and you're like, "Whoa, did we even look at each other during that day?" Or, like, "What was that day?" So I think sometimes,
Yeah.
in my past, I have subjugated my true birthday desires and hidden them even from myself because I was just maybe going with the flow or letting other people take charge. And so I really gave myself the gift this year of starting from base zero of when I open my eyes on the day of my birthday. Where do I want to be and who do I want to be with? And the answer was I want to be in a hotel room by myself. And it was the truest desire of my heart. I mean, I have a 21-month-old baby and she does not yet sleep all the way through the night. So even just the idea of, oh, I can wake up in a bed that I can sprawl out in, and I don't have to wake up to a sound or wake up to something I have to do or wake up to someone who wants to see me. I can just wake up and be with myself. And that was the catalyst for the whole birthday. So I had shared with you this vision, and you were
And I
such a great wingman. You were such a great, birthday collaborator because you were like, "Let me send you options. Let me send you places you could go. Let me send you," and then I would say, "And maybe I wanna go to a spa. Maybe wanna do this." And you would just send me all these options, almost like a candy buffet, and I could go, "Oh, I wanna do this. I wanna do this." And then you were such a great friend because you said, "And I'll do as much of it with you as you would like company for. And anytime you want space and a break, I'll leave you to it." And it was so lovely in like, I get to set the boundaries for my birthday that I want, and everyone is supportive of it. And I get friend time and I get alone time. And then I got to come home and see my family and have time with them. All to say, it was such a lesson that boundaries are really not about keeping anyone else out of your life. Boundaries are just about giving you a space and a container where you can be so free and joyful in what makes you feel good and what you want to do and how you want to play and how you want to move around in life. And when the boundary is really good and strong and solid, it's kind of like all you want to do is invite people into it when it's appropriate.
exactly right. And boundaries create the space or the container for our health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I feel like there's a lot of, when I talk to different people about boundaries, there's a lot of conversations about guilt, or, like I feel guilty setting a boundary, or it feels selfish to set the boundary. But I certainly felt in my experience, the more clear I was with everyone, the less manipulated they got by me, by my energy being upset that they were overtaking my birthday. It's like the more clear I was, the more everyone could go, "Oh, great. So happy to know how you feel. So happy to know how I can support you."
Right, a boundary I think is more like saying, "Here's what I wanna create. Here's what I wanna do at this time," so that you can be really intentional about it. Yeah, it's the parameters through which we can co-create.
And
Yeah.
it does
And
feel Go ahead,
I was
I'm
just gonna say,
sorry.
I can get into resentment when my boundary is not clean enough. So that's what I have to just watch in myself. Like if I'm having a milky boundary or a leaky boundary, it's because yeah, it's actually like, oh, I'm the one that has to go. Nope, I'm I need to check out so I can take care of myself so I can come back with more energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it almost feels like if given the choice of I'm gonna feel guilty for setting the boundary or I'm gonna feel resentful that I didn't, guilty's the better choice. You know, like if you're gonna feel like, oh, I feel a little bit guilty, but it's better for the whole. It's better for the health of the whole. I have a yoga teacher who I love, who I studied with for years, Christy Marsden, and she said one time, and I remembered this. She said, one of the highest forms of manipulation is not asking for what you want and need and then being upset with the other person for not honoring it or giving it to you. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because so often we don't mean to. We're not doing it. We're not setting out to be manipulative or we're not setting out to cause harm. But so often we don't say what we need. We don't say the truth out loud. We don't say, actually, that wouldn't feel good for me because we're maybe afraid of it not being heard or afraid of hurting the other person's feelings or afraid that we will get rejected if we speak up or say something. But then it actually creates an unwinnable situation for you and for the other person because now they can't psychically know how to show up for you and meet your need, which is going to lead you to have deeper stuff to work out with them. It's better to just say all the truth out loud.
100%. And I find that if we haven't been taught that our needs can get met, we don't take the moment to get still enough to figure out what our needs are, so then we can ask for them to be met. So, what I can find is that, like, sometimes life is just going. Life is just going, I'm going, and all of a sudden, I realize, something doesn't feel good. Something doesn't feel good, it means I have a need inside of myself that I haven't addressed. So I need to, like, whew, take a break, take a breath, stop, connect, and just ask myself the question, what doesn't feel good? And then ask myself the question, so what do I need? And then who do I need to ask in order to have that need met? And sometimes it's just myself, right? Or sometimes I need more help so that I can create that for myself. But it's really interesting because it's kind of a process of self inquiry where I'm showing up to pay attention to my actual life as it unfolds and use that for information so I can help myself have a better experience.
Mm, yeah, that brings up for me something I'm learning about right now in parenting is it's really important in sort of conscious parenting or the sort of more modern ways of looking at parenting of allowing the child to really still feel like they have choice and autonomy and not just feeling like the parents always telling them what their need is or telling them what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it how they're supposed to do it, right? It's really important to give them choices. And so they were saying,
Uh-huh.
if you want the child to, leave the playground or whatever, then it's like you can understand that they're going to have feelings about it. So then you can sort of say, okay, we're going to have a choice here. We're going to leave the playground now. Would you like to hold your teddy bear as we leave? Or would you like to hold my hand and walk beside me as we leave? So it's like leaving the playground is what's happening. And you have choice and autonomy inside of that. But it sort of teaches the child that they can actually listen to what their need and preference is. Like, what do I actually want? And it's an early, early training that, first of all, you have the choice. And second of all, you have permission to access the choice. And third of all, you have the right to have that choice be heard and honored by another person.
Yeah, and what a great way that we can respect each other in a relationship is if we give each other choices, right? That's like a really wonderful way to show up for another human being is to say, "Hey, I could show up for you in a couple of different ways. Which one feels best for you? And I feel like you just saying that out loud helped me with something that I had been trying to figure out in one of my relationships of like, oh, perhaps what might be helpful there is if I present some choices. And that's a really interesting thing for me. And I'm starting to now take this and like, I always think any relationship I have is a mirror. So there might be a place where I'm not showing myself more choices in my own life, right? So there might be a thing where I need to look at my own life and go, all right, what isn't working for you? And where would you like to have more choices, Kristen? Like, so I can show up and be the friend for myself that I was showing up to be for you and go, how could I maybe even delight myself more by giving myself some more choices? And maybe in every part of my life. Do I just need to step back and say, where have I been operating on autopilot? And where would I like to have some more choices presented?
So this brings me to this beautiful moment in time that we're in. We're in spring, we're in equinox time. And I was just hearing about this with some other women that I work with, and we were talking about the goddess Ostara. And the goddess Ostara is the sort of goddess of this time. She's like this maiden energy, the goddess of springtime. Ostara is really like the root of how we get to Easter, the Easter celebration of like it's this goddess that brings in this new life, new hope, new possibility, more sunshine. Like we're moving out of that yin period of more darkness. We're moving towards more light, towards more visibility, towards more play. And she's really this goddess of like the fairies and the earth and the creatures and you can just feel her energy and how like I'm speaking about her. There's this buoyancy, there's this hope, possibility, and spring brings that. It's like the blossoms bloom, and there's new creativity, there's new energy. We want to spring clean. We want to get rid of what's no longer working and bring in new things and new ideas start to come to the surface. And her gift in sort of her story is that she finds these frozen wings and she takes the wings and she transforms them like alchemy, like magician style, into a bunny. And the bunny being not only the symbol of Easter, right? But the bunny is it's playful and it's abundance. It's abundance. It's like nothing is more abundant than a baby making baby, a bunny making babies, you know? And it's this energy that almost the goddess at this moment is calling us to look at is what in our life has been frozen? Like, are there
Mm,
ideas of how I live that are kind of stuck? Like I've frozen this relationship is only this way and it can't change. It's like I've frozen it, I've stuck it. Is there a way of thinking about things that I have? Well, this is just the way it is, or it's always this way, or nothing's going to change, or this is how this industry is, or this is how that person is. It's like I've frozen it. And the goddess of spring is the thing that says it doesn't have to be frozen and it might not even be what you think it is. And it gives us the opportunity of this reinvention of seeing things in a new way, seeing relationships in a way we've never seen them before, bringing things to fruition that haven't been created before, rewriting the story of who I am and how I live and what my relationships look like. That I can alchemize it during this time. It doesn't even have to look like it used to. It can magically, in the potency of this moment in time, I can say, and for now on, as a creatrix, it's now this. And we can do that with our thoughts. We can do that with how we feel. We can do that with each other. And what a powerful thing to look at someone and say, any ideas that I have frozen you as, I release those. And you show up today, and I'm so excited to meet you. Who are you today? Who are you now? Who do we get to be together now? How do we get to play now? What's new? What do we get to create and invent together now? And I think for creatives with projects, this can be very powerful. Anything I've been attached to and stuck to and trying to make work, what if I just alchemized it? What if I just let it go? Something new gets to emerge. And it's a fun thing because it's this moment in time, this season is calling that energy forward in us.
Yeah, and I love to well, it's so fun to realize that with my perception, I often keep things frozen because I have a mental idea of how it is. And because I have that mental idea of how it is, it corresponds as that to me. And the moment I decide, oh, we're gonna flow differently together, and how do you want to bloom? Like, how do you want to grow? So whether that's like talking to a specific project or a specific relationship or finances, anything, and saying, who, what do you want to be? How do you want to grow? How can I see you differently or interact with you differently that gives you space to grow? And then all of a sudden, because I start to give it permission and I start to interact with it differently, it starts to bloom. So this will happen to me all the time with projects. Like, I can have projects that just are not moving. Nothing's happening, nothing's going. And part of me knows it's because of how I have gotten stuck in a relationship with it. Maybe I've been trying to push it in a way it doesn't want to go. Maybe I have decided, oh, people don't want this or they don't like this or I don't have the resources. I get locked into a way of thinking about it. And then the moment that I decide, "Oop, let me interact with you differently. Like, how do you wanna grow? How do you wanna move?" Then all of a sudden, it's almost like I can feel it start to talk to me, and I can start to feel into where the momentum wants to take it. And then if I start to nurture how it wants to flow, how it wants to move, I can feel it start to grow and it starts to take on a momentum of its own. And this has happened to me so many times where I know that it's my way of seeing that thing or my way of interacting with it or the way that I have kept it stuck or frozen. And that just with a simple change of energy, things start to move. And even when I tell myself the story, "Oh, it's time for this thing to bloom now. It's time for this thing to go," I can start to see evidence of that everywhere. That has happened to me so many times. Um, I know I've heard you say before that I decide, and I can feel that in my own life. Like the moment I decide about something, it's like I show up differently in a relationship with it.
Yeah. And I actually think sometimes we keep things frozen because there's there's a little bit more ease in it because like the really taking responsibility for like, oh, I froze this and I can do something about it and I'm sovereign in my own life and I have authority in my life, and if that's frozen it's because I chose for it to be, and now I'm
Yeah.
choosing something different. It's sometimes easier to be like, let me go back into, let me just research a little more. Let me just, I'm not quite ready. Let me just do one more thing. Let me read one more book. Let me ask one more person for advice. Let me, as opposed to really
Yeah.
going, okay, whatever is not working here, I am the cause of it. In some
Yes.
way of taking radical responsibility, I may not be the only cause, but certainly I can take responsibility for like where I am at cause, and that's actually the position of power to say, okay, like the sovereign energy in me is going to come forward and claim absolute responsibility, and from that place of like utter leadership, uh
Power.
power comes in, right? And the
Yes.
power that's needed to fuel the thing to make it not frozen anymore.
100%. It's so funny. So I have always been a big fan of Louise Hay. I just like her. I dig her. For some reason, when she's had when I hear her words, it just does something for me. And one of my trips to LA, I was at a friend's house and I saw the Louise Hay book on there, and I would the You Can Heal Your Life, and I said to her, "Oh, this book was so helpful to me." And she said, "Oh, I'm part of a book club. I haven't read it." And I said, could I borrow it for a minute? Because it's been a second since I've read it." And she said, "Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Take it as long as you want." But I literally felt like it was like placed there for me. And it's all about what we're talking about, realizing that you're not a victim of your circumstance, but that you have authority and power in your life and that you can release the patterns that have gotten you stuck. And it's and one of the affirmations that she gives is I'm willing to release the pattern that got me stuck in this situation. And it's so fun for me even just to watch when my thoughts start to ruminate. And like so when I thoughts start to ruminate, I know I'm using my creative power to keep me stuck in a pattern and just the ability to go, "Oh, yeah, I'm willing to release that pattern now. That's something I'm willing to release." And just to give my brain permission not to stay in the old tracks, the old mental cycles of the thing that I am not wanting to create anymore. That
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I'm thawing. I am releasing, I'm letting go, I'm allowing it to move. Yeah, that the way that that'll just change what I'm looking at can be really helpful for me.
I love the language of that too. I'm willing. It's because sometimes when it's like, "I am releasing this," then
Mm.
every time you catch yourself back in the loop, it's this perception of I failed. I've done it wrong. I've done it bad. I've gotten off course. See, I can't do this. See, I'm not it's actually an opportunity to almost like reinforce the pattern, you know? And so
Yeah,
the gentleness in like I'm willing to do it one little willingness at a time, one little moment at a time, and I'm sort of gentle with myself when I fall back into that groove because of course I will. It's been where I've been for so long. Of course there's an instinctual patterning to go back there. The groove is really deep. It's like I'm trying to build new tracks in the snow, but it's easier to go back where there's already a groove. And so, I could think that it's even in the languaging of like, I'm willing to give this a shot. I'm willing to do this one moment at a time, one breath at a time, one thought at a time. And really realizing that moving through the pattern and moving into a new way of being in relationship to the pattern will probably require lots of going back and forth for a while. It's not you doing it wrong. It's because every time you kind of fall off the horse and you get back on the horse, you get stronger at getting back on the horse. So the,
yes,
the back and forth is maybe part of the process. And if we could just give ourselves a little more grace, that it's it's um in order to learn, we have to unlearn and relearn. We have to forget to remember. We forget to remember that's part of the process of how we do it.
and the last thing we need when we're learning new ways of being is blame and shame, right? That what we need is love, gentleness, approval, encouragement, softness to go, "Yeah, yeah, you're changing. Look at you. Good job." Even just catching oneself going back to an old pattern and going, "Oh, look at the self-awareness. You saw it. You just saw it. Okay, cool. Good. Just you're noticing. That's helping the process. Good job." And getting back on I like to get back on the balance beam, get back on the horse, over and over again. That's all we're doing.
I I
Yeah.
love I love that, and I've been feeling that too where, you know, I can tell when I'm really in my practices and when my boundaries are strong and when I'm giving myself computer breaks and when I'm really prioritizing getting outside. I can tell when the things are in place, like I'm drinking enough water, that even if my babe isn't sleeping, or even if I've got a pile of work that day, or even if, I get into some low energy conversations I mean to get into, or maybe I did mean to get into, I can feel that I've still got sort of like a baseline that can keep me going, "Okay, ke get but when those things drop as well, then it all kind of falls apart, and I could
Yeah.
feel just recently, in the last few weeks. There was a couple of times when I just let the practices and the things that uphold the standards in my life, I just let them slip just enough. And then I woke up one day and was like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time getting a deep breath. Oh, my body's experiencing some anxiety." And it felt more foreign because I'd been so almost like regulated in my nervous system for some time, that then all of a sudden the dysregulation, like, oh, okay. But I could directly see the correlation of what I had let freeze, like I had even let
Yeah,
practices freeze a little. And so, oh, there it is. And so there's this grace in saying, oh, this is just such good information, that this is where my body will go if I do those things. Like, oh, it's good information that if I eat 12 cookies, my tummy will hurt, but if I eat one, it won't. That's good
that's
information,
right.
right? And it's
Good
not shame
information.
yourself for the 12 cookies. It's just, oh, good information, good information. And I'm just being this collector of this data to know how to love myself better.
That's right. That's I feel that way about if I can if I start working too much and I forget to nurture my friendships, ooh, I feel it. If I forget to spend enough time outside, ooh, I feel it. And so carving out those things that make me feel really nourished and really cared for becomes so important. And to be gentle with myself that I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget. I'm going to put too many things on my day. And then I'm going to remember that makes me unhappy. And then I'm going to pare down. And then I'm going to remember to do the things that make me feel like a human. And I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna remember, I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna remember. I mean, I think that's part of the reasons we have conversations with each other is so that we can just remember what works, how we best take care of ourselves, and that we can find it in the process. Um, I also want to share about what works is I am in Iowa right now. In fact, I'm sitting in front of a window that is filled with snow. Like it is snowy outside. I'm in Iowa. I'm working on Rob Bell's play. We'll get back to you. Speaking of, when things aren't moving and then you find a way to move for them to move, I never thought I'd be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, doing a play, but an opportunity happened here to do Rob's play, and we wanted to do it. And I'm having the best time with the most incredible people, so much kindness, so much generosity, so much community. And also, it is fascinating to be in the middle of the country in 2024, in the middle of America. I am learning so many things. And this play is really about systems that aren't working because we forget to put humanity at the core of the system and we build systems that don't serve us. And we're having really interesting conversations in the rehearsal room about what systems aren't working. And I am someone who has lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in New York, but and I've traveled a lot, but to actually spend time, I'm just learning a lot about what is going on in different parts of our country. And that is fascinating. And I feel like it's no mistake that I'm here. And I feel really grateful to get to be here to learn, but it's eye opening. And it just keeps me, all I can think is, oh, our systems need to change. And we have to find a way that we create systems in our lives, in our community, and in the world at large that serve the people,
Mm.
that serve humanity. And that can sound like the simplest thing ever to say. Um, but I always want to like take it down to like the personal, like, well, what systems in my own life aren't serving my own humanity? And how can I start to realize there are choices so that I can show up in my community different and show up to serve humanity in my community in a different way? Um, yeah, it's really interesting. But I wanted to tell you about it because it feels very, I mean, it's like I knew from reading newspaper headlines, but I didn't know about it deeply from being with people every day and talking about it and seeing it. And so I just wanted to share with you and ask you about your thoughts about it.
Well, I just feels like the most healing thing to say, please show me what your experience is so I can just witness it. I I feel like something that's really been on my consciousness lately is, cancel culture was something that emerged that there were some things and that needed that energy to say no more, no more. We say no to this. And then the pendulum very much swung where all of a sudden everything and everyone that's just um, a different way of operating or a different way of seeing or a different way of explaining, all of a sudden everything that's not me gets canceled. Right. And I think we even do this in our romantic partners. Like if you see things different than me, I cancel you. I withhold my love from you. And there's uh I remember I just this week I posted something, like a positive quote or a quote that I liked on my Facebook, and someone wrote that they were having a different experience of the quote, and I could feel in my body wanting to go, "Well, who is this? And why are they writing on my wall? And why do they feel that way? And I don't agree, and I wanna start building my position of why." And I went, "Huh, oh, in my own life, can I feel into what would be the example of what I would like to see the world be that does center humanity?" And what I ended up writing is, "Oh, I'm so interested that that's what you got out of that. Could you tell me more about that?" And they ended up sharing what their opinion was, and I listened, and I wrote back and I said, "Thank you so much for sharing. I feel differently, but I'm glad to know your thoughts." And then they wrote back, "Wow, thank you so much. I really hope to work with you on something someday." So there was no resolution. We do feel differently, but the ability to be inside the nuance of listening. Like, just because we feel differently doesn't mean we have to hate each other or
Mhm.
want bad things for one another or want to hurt each other or cancel each other. And we've really lost the ability to hear difference, see difference. And it's only when we can really come together to hear each other can we actually hear there has to be inside both of our experiences because we are one. There has to be something in between where I am and where you are. There is a sacred, an elegant something in between that we can't hear when we're so divisive and divided. And so I don't know if that's your experience, but what I hear inside your sharing is just bearing witness to something different than your normal circumstance and just being present to what it causes for you in your body as a beginning stage of us learning how to do things differently.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that, by the way, that was so well said. And it's so funny. I had that come up in a collaboration this week where we talked about that magical third, those two places where we see things differently. And and I was able to say to my collaborator, I want you to hold on to what you see as true. And my desire is that you get curious about about what I see. So
Mm,
I'm not asking you to move off your position at all. Hold tightly to what you know to be true. And with the same amount of reverence, can you get curious about my experience, my body, and why I see what I see, and give me an opportunity to share it with you? Um, and through this process, something might occur that might lead us somewhere really exciting. And then my process here has just been, I've just literal fascination. Oh my goodness. What there are so many systems I didn't know the depths of which they weren't working for people. And
mm,
so I feel like I'm getting to hear people talk about healthcare systems that aren't working, economic systems that aren't working, employment systems that aren't working, higher education systems that aren't working. Really get here into some of the minutia of how the systems aren't working, which is really interesting because I think part of the process is we have to address what's not working in order to find the new way. And I think sometimes we get really scared of admitting what's not working. And that
Mm,
like brings me then again back to the personal. Am I admitting to myself what's not working in my own life? Am,
mm.
am I slowing down enough? Because if the systems of my own life aren't working, how can I even start to heal them outside? Because otherwise, I'm just going to bring broken systems, right?
And
Things
we
that are already not
normalize it.
working,
We normalize that broken
normalize
systems is
it.
what we do, so there's nothing to
That's
fix.
right.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
How it's supposed to feel. Your body's not supposed to be sick and need all those things. Nature knows how to heal your body. We've moved away. Okay, how can I move back to a system that works?
yes, that's exactly right. And nature knows how to heal us just the way there's an energy inside of us that knows how to heal our own lives. If we can get like, we can slow down a little bit and listen to it, which has been my experience, and start to get curious about it and have conversations and intuition and really learn how to trust ourselves. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
requires
I
the
get,
boundary. It requires the boundaries to be clear and strong and stable enough so I can have the time to see what is.
that is correct. That is correct. Oh, and guess what I learned about my own life and my own thriving? I am so happy when I'm directing. I have so much energy for life. I'm so happy. It makes me so blissful. And I was like, oh, doesn't even matter as long as I love the project and I love the people.
Doesn't matter where,
Gosh, it
doesn't
may
matter what. Yeah, it's the sheer art of being where your talent was designed to be or doing what it
yeah.
was designed to do. It's like how good a flower must feel when it blooms, you know, how good a tree must feel when it like reaches its branches out and like dances in the wind. It's like because that's what it was born to do. So it feels good to do it. An apple tree when it makes an apple it must feel so good, right? And we humans have these things that each of us in our individuation and in our perfection of the design of the intelligence that made us, you know, like our consciousness involuted into this human form and it picked the exact human form for us to, you know, go through the evolutionary process we're meant to go through. And when there's that moment of like, ah, this is what I came here for, that is life giving.
Yeah. And it is really fun to be able to go, oh, yeah, this is what I came here for. And then realize that that's something that I give myself
Mm.
the ability to go, oh, I will find a way to do what I came here for.
Mm. Oh, and there's a new affirmation. I am willing to give myself the space and permission to do and to be what I came here for.
That's it. It's so fun talking to you, Natalie.
Always and every time.
And and I felt that the weekend when you and I were hanging out celebrating your birthday. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is what we came
This
here
kind of
for.
stuff. This is what we came here for.
Yes.
Nat, do you have any fun things you want to tell people about?
Um, I I do. Okay, this is in like early bird, like the sprout is just coming out of the earth mode, but I am gonna be teaching a woman's only mindset, acting 4-week journey called the Leading Lady Blueprint, and I'm
Come
really, really
on.
excited about it. If you want to email me and get on the wait list, the like stay tuned for more details. I'm gonna launch it in May, so it's still coming to be. It's still coming into manifestation. But if you're interested, if you're an actress, creator, songwriter, writer. I'm going to be really designing this around the creative expression, but we're going to be going through the feminine blueprint for being the leading lady in your life, basically, and in the work that you bring to the planet. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me an email. It's my name, Natalie Lynn Roy at gmail.com. Lynn is with two N's, NATALIELYNNROY. If you want to email me and get more details as they're available, I've got that brewing and cooking. It's going to be my baby's going to be born in May.
Yes, baby born. All right, I have a few babies to share.
Love it.
So, Rob Bell's play, We'll Get Back to You, premiering here at the Mirrorbox Theater in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So, if you're nearby, if you're in Chicago, come on out. It's playing all of April. And then, if you're in New York City, on April 16th, we're screening Accidentally Brave at the DGA. So if you want to see that movie, the based on the play with Maddie Corman in it, you can come to the DGA and see it. And then my book, God, Sex, Musical Theater, the Drama Bookshop, the famous Drama Bookshop in New York City, is doing a night of poems, and I'm going to have different actresses reading different poems, including yours truly, Natalie Roy, and that's Thursday, May 2nd. So there's lots of different ways to come see my face. Oh, or here's another one. If you're in LA on April 28th, end of the month, I am I have a musical that has about a little girl with epilepsy, and we are going to be at the Bowl doing the epilepsy walk, and we're going to do some performances of it. So if you're in LA and you'd like to support a great cause and you'd like to come support me, we're going to be at the Bowl on April 28th. That is my spring friends.
Just
Come
a
on
gentle little
out.
spring offering.
Just
And
some,
people
yeah, and it doesn't, whatever coast, middle of the country,
right?
come
There's
on.
all kinds of places people can come see you, and would they just email you if they want details on any of those?
Yes, and I'm sure they'll all be on my socials too, that people
Yay,
can come check out.
perfect.
Yay.
Well, thank you for
Um,
listening. As always, we hope that you are moving into this spring season with gentleness, compassion, willingness, strong boundaries, and clarity.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for being committed to showing up for your dreams.
If you would like to know more about what we are up to or find more information about our podcast, upcoming retreats, or anything else, please go check out our website, www.thecreateseries.com.
And you can come and jam with us on Facebook. I know, we're still on Facebook. We have a Create community page, and that's Create C.R.E.A.T.E.
And if you want to check us out on Instagram, you can find me, Natalie, at Miss Natalie Roy.
And you can find me at Hangy Love. That's HANGGILOVE.
Keep on rocking your dreams, and we can't wait to connect with you more.